think is the best running back in the NFL as we speak?
Well, I mean, you'd have to say Elliott.
Elliott cuts back. Zeke, touchdown.
He wore down, and in the end, his backup was considered better than him.
Zeke, it's the call. Elliott, the ball pops out, and DeJean recovers in the end zone.
Ezekiel Elliott, a name that at one point in time rattled NFL stadiums. Zeke was not an ordinary running back, at least for a short while anyway. He was a phenomenon, a human highlight reel, and the unshakable heartbeat of the Dallas Cowboys. The 1-2 punch he provided with Dak Prescott proved to be something that the Cowboy fans could bite and sink their teeth into in hopes of reclaiming a Super Bowl. And while that never happened with this duo and likely never will, when you look back at Zeke's career, you do wonder, just what the hell happened? At the end of the day, this guy's still not even 30 years old, yet he could very well be out of the league by next year. The once dominant superstar finds himself at crossroads, his name now whispered with uncertainty rather than in awe. How did such a quick fall from grace happen to one of the NFL's most electrifying runners? This is the story of Ezekiel Elliott, a tale of record-shattering success, hard-hitting setbacks, and a career whose final chapter has yet to be written technically, but it's not looking good, y'all. Simply put, Zeke was born to play football. Having a father who played linebacker and a mother who was a track star, athleticism was in his DNA. But Zeke didn't just inherit talent, he sharpened it with unmatched grit and determination. The Ohio State fans learned soon enough that Ezekiel Elliott was no ordinary recruit. He was a generational talent. After being patient and sitting his freshman year out, Zeke's sophomore year was nothing short of spectacular. When the spotlight finally did dawn on him, he didn't just shine, he burned brighter than anyone could have ever imagined. By the time he declared for the 2016 draft, scouts and analysts alike agreed upon one thing: Ezekiel Elliott was in a class of his own. In an era that largely devalued running backs, and still to this day, the Dallas Cowboys would draft him with the 4th overall pick, which was their way of saying that Zeke was not only just unique, he was also game-changing. Elliott would burst into the NFL like a tornado, forging a rookie season that immediately entered the annals of greatness. God, I always feel weird saying that word. I need to grow up. With an astonishing 1,631 yards on the ground, a full 300 yards more than the league's second place rusher, Elliott didn't just set the pace, he would annihilate it. Each and every Sunday, he took the gridiron stage and created moments that were sure to leave fans thrilled and opponents demoralized. The secret to his dominance? Pure, unrelenting versatility. Dallas would put their future on the shoulders of their young star, and Elliott wore those expectations as well as he chugged through the defensive lines. Led by their running back, the Cowboys weren't just flirting with contention, they were legit championship threats. Keyword being threats. By the time year 2 rolled around, it was clear Elliott was not an up-and-coming star. In fact, he had already arrived. But like with most NFL players, you do have your great, your good, and oftentimes you do have some bad to go with it. Elliott began to run into some issues in his second year in 2017, as he would serve a 6-game suspension over domestic violence allegations, which would taint the rise of his stardom. As much as Zeke made his stance known on the allegations and fought the ruling, the ordeal cast a shadow over his season and marked the first major setback in a career that seemed untouchable. But in typical Zeke fashion, at least at the time, he would come back in 2018 with a vengeance, taking back the league's rushing title and getting everyone to remember why he is undeniably so talented. Yet the whispers began to get louder, questioning his longevity and off-the-field decisions. Despite that, the Cowboys would make a statement in 2019 by inking a record-breaking 6-year, $90 million contract, the largest ever for a running back. Oh boy, I've said this plenty of times, okay, not plenty of times, but a few times on my channel, where there are a few reasons why running backs don't get paid anymore like they used to. And a big reason why was a contract given to Ezekiel Elliott. He reset the market, yet we kind of know where he's at now in today's league. This was just 5 years ago, y'all. Just 5. Still, in 2019, fans were thrilled. The visions of Super Bowl danced in their heads as expectations would soar. Zeke was supposed to lead the charge, taking the team to even greater heights as their franchise cornerstone. But beneath the surface, something was changing. While Elliott's production remained steady, he seemed to slowly lose some of that explosiveness that made him so unique at the beginning of his career. As the 2019 and 2020 seasons unfolded, whispers began to grow louder. You began to not see the same Ezekiel Elliott that we saw in those first few seasons. Some explosive plays, the sharp cuts, they became fewer and far between as the years progressed. Don't get me wrong, injuries did take their toll, and the O-line did struggle sometimes to create openings. Combining that with Tony Pollard's emergence as a dynamic playmaker only further deepened the growing concerns. What once seemed like a perfect marriage with Zeke and Big D was now clouded with uncertainty. While it seemed like a hit to give Ezekiel Elliott the money that he earned, it became known almost instantly that it was the bad move for the Cowboys, and you could argue it's something that they've been paying for to this day. By 2021, it was no longer possible to sweep all various hints under the rug that Elliott's career was in decline. He went from being the Cowboys' workhorse back to failing to reach even just 1,000 rushing yards. Meanwhile, Tony Pollard was the star on the rise in the backfield, outperforming him at every turn while providing the explosive game-changing plays that were once synonymous with Zeke himself. By this point in 2021, and I guess going into 2022, Pollard became slowly the guy in the backfield, while Zeke was more of that pick up those 2 yards on third down kind of running back. He was just their power back. And while that does have a role in an offense, it's a pretty substantial fall from grace, however, to what the guy used to be. By 2022, the torch had all but passed. The feared burst and agility were but shades of their former selves, as Zeke's yards per carry average slipped to an unremarkable 3.8 yards per carry. It was a truth hard to swallow. The player who once electrified the league had turned into an afterthought in his own backfield. Then, in March of 2023, came the inevitable. The Cowboys made the difficult call as they released Ezekiel Elliott. The era finally came to an end. This was the franchise that built its offense on his relentless power and speed, but it had moved on, leaving fans to grapple with the sombering truth that even legends have their final chapter. At 27 years old, Zeke's move to the New England Patriots marked a new chapter in his career, one where a once clear-cut role as bell cow back faded into the background. But don't be too quick to count him out. Zeke is far from a story of failure. Unmet true potential? Maybe. But the guy did dominate, even if for a short while. As we all know, he did okay with the Patriots, but it was nothing really that really stood out. Now in 2024, back with the Cowboys, again, he's kind of more so taken a back seat in the backfield to Rico Dowdle. And most recently, the latest news that we had heard from Zeke was that he was creating controversy by no-showing some meetings, which did get a lot of people talking to illustrate what's going on with the Dallas Cowboys themselves. But that was more of a story about the Cowboys rather than Zeke, even though he was the one that was creating that controversy. So we do get to now today, where it seems like his career may be all but over. Unless Jerry Jones decides to keep him, I don't see an NFL team handing out anything more than a veteran minimum for his services. Which is still crazy to think because the man is still not even 30 years old yet. But I don't want to be too harsh on the guy. Like I said, I think this guy did pretty well. Even if it was for a short while, he was a top 3 running back at one point. But as with the position, unless you're the likes of Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley, you're going to diminish rather quickly. It's very hard to sustain long-term success as a running back, and Zeke was one of the biggest examples of it. He was one of the best at his position, got paid like it, and then fell off of a cliff. And it's not that uncommon, whether it's injuries, a change to the scheme, maybe even lack of motivation. You've seen it with the guys likes of Todd Gurley, Dante Freeman, Arian Foster. These guys would get hurt or something would go wrong, and then out of nowhere, they're in obscurity by that point. One thing you can't take away from the man, yes, he was cocky, he was always the feed me more with the spoon and everything like that, but he did give you 100%. His relentless drive didn't just earn him respect from teammates, it also won over fans in awe of his energy and flair. But it wasn't just about being dominant on the field, as Zeke was a larger-than-life personality who found himself into the biggest market in the entire NFL. The iconic crop top jersey was just a symbol of his confidence. The Feed Zeke celebration would fire up crowds, encapsulating the playful side of him. Every time he scored, it seemed to be a celebration of skill and charisma that now is rarely seen. Of course, one can say that Zeke is going to stay as a classic player in everyone's heart. People will remember the name Ezekiel Elliott, but I don't think he'll ever be a Hall of Famer. I don't think he'll ever be more than just, remember that guy? He was pretty damn good. As Ezekiel Elliott approaches the twilight of his career, one can't help but ask the question, what's next? Is he able to change his game? I don't know what more Zeke can give at this point in his career that he couldn't already have done. I do think that he is at the end of his rope as far as an NFL career goes. But you know, we've seen crazier things. Look at Frank Gore. He played until he was 54 years old. So there's always a chance that somebody could use a running back. But do you want that big personality in your backfield, especially when they're not going to deliver as they once did? But Zeke, at the end of the day, does rank pretty high among the entirety of NFL history. As of my recording, Ezekiel Elliott is about 100 yards shy of 10,000 yards for his career, which ranks him 40th all time. He also has 73 total rushing touchdowns, good enough for the top 30. So he is there as far as, you know, some of the greats, and around him, if you look at the stats, he is around some Hall of Famers, although I don't know if he did enough in this generation to earn himself a Hall of Fame jacket. I'm gonna go ahead and say no, he hasn't earned it. But I could be wrong. Let me know what you guys think on that. But if I had to give the career of Ezekiel Elliott's time in the NFL a grade, if I had to grade him today, if he retired today, I would have to give him a B. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. If this is your first time on the channel, go ahead and smash that subscribe button if you made it this far, and go ahead and like the video as it helps get this video out there for YouTube's algorithm. That's it for today. Until next time, y'all. Love you guys. Shoot, booey!